All right, Carol, you are smiling, which is a good thing, and you're smiling because
Hey,
you passed the PMP exam, correct?
pass,
Yeah,
finally.
I know it's good. All right, cool. So I wanted to first of all congratulate you. Good job, way to go. We had no doubt, but you did a good job. And then secondly, to kind of do a little debrief and say, how was it going through the accelerator and going through other things? So why don't you, before we get into that, why don't you kind of just summarize your little journey up to like being successful and passing the PMP? What did you go through? What was your story?
So I took the PMP about 2 years ago. I took
Mhm.
the exam, I failed, I bombed it. And I was just devastated, didn't want to do it again, but it was like on my planner, a part of my goals. So I kept going back to it. And I went through a course and I still didn't understand, but I found you through our PMP group, the group that I belong to,
Oh
and
yeah.
I signed up for your master class.
Mhm.
And then I saw another video of a success person that went through the 7-day accelerator. And
Right.
so at that point, um, I had emailed you and you called me right back and I got in to the 7-day accelerator. I did it twice.
All right.
The first time through, um, things started making more sense for me.
Hmm.
And then I printed off your book. I had access to the live courses.
Yeah.
I went through the simulator. I went through just looking at in the chat in the community, the chat room, like people would post problems that they would have or issues with questions, and I read through those.
Nice.
Um, and I just kept going through the simulator. I knew what my problem was, which was monitoring, controlling.
Uh,
But for some reason, I kept starting all over with
it's
initiating and planning
all
and
right.
just going through everything. And this in the 7-day accelerator, what really kept me going and motivated me was your motivation minutes,
Okay.
um, and also uh, like just following the steps,
Mm.
just going through the guide and following the guide. And I've seen like lots of videos like these where they say trust the process. And I say, okay, I'm going to trust the process, but I didn't really trust the process.
Yeah.
So I just kept going, and that was my fault because I doubted myself.
Okay.
Um, and again, it wasn't until like I saw again the positivity video that
Mhm.
really made me say, okay, it's time for you to do it. Um,
All right.
and
What?
and I'll go ahead.
No, no, no. Keep going. Keep going. You're going.
Um, I was going to say, once I had decided to schedule, I was looking for dates, and there weren't any dates for like 2 and 3 weeks out.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, well, I'll just wait and schedule it then. But I got kicked out of the system, and when I went back into the system, there was an available date for
Ah,
like this past Saturday. So
nice.
I snatched it up and
And you
I
did
did
it.
it. I
That's
passed it.
good. Do you know how you did on the exam? Like you obviously passed, which is all we care about. But do you know how
Yeah,
how
yeah, I
passed?
do.
All right.
So listen, I got above targets in initiating, planning, and executing. I
There you go.
got below target in monitoring control.
You knew that was your
I got
problem area.
target in closing.
All right. All right.
And but you know what? I finished like 45 minutes before the
Whoa.
exam was over.
Holy cow.
And I went back through and I was reading the questions over and over again.
Mhm.
And the thing that was always a problem for me is I would change my answers.
Yeah.
And I felt that I was doing that. Like I could, I literally saw myself clicking to change the answers. And then there were some questions where I was like, I don't know where I'm at. Like
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my gosh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But there were some questions I was smiling. I was like, oh, I've seen this. I know what it is. And I just
That's
went
good.
through it. So yeah.
Now, You said those little motivational minutes. So for people out there that don't know what those are, like, I don't think in any other PMP class there's motivational minutes. What are the motivational minutes? Like, what are they?
The motivational minutes are you coaching and encouraging us to keep going and to congratulate ourselves for how far we've gotten and to don't give up.
Right.
The ones that really, like, I wrote it down, the introspective,
Okay.
that really hit with me because it was about, why are you still afraid? Or, don't be afraid, keep going. And so what if you don't pass? Take it again. And
Right.
but you will pass. Like, it was just positive. So and the positivity was you could do it, you come a long way, and be proud of yourself where you're at. And I will say, when I, like, the day before I took the exam, I felt good, which
Right.
I had never felt good before when I took it. And I felt relaxed and happy, and I knew I would pass. So that was the positivity. I knew I would pass. And the next morning I got up, like, it was like, I didn't feel any pressure or stress before I took the test. And I went in with a good feeling, at a good place. So
That's
I took
good.
it. Yeah.
Well, you did so great, and that's awesome. Like, the community aspect is something that's different, like weird. Like, I'm so glad that you kind of took advantage of, first of all the resources which are available to you, and then you also kind of, sounds like you did the chat stuff. Did you go to the coaching calls and those
I
things?
did. I had Sandy and Melissa as my coach.
Okay, so you didn't even go with me, which is good. So Sandy's amazing. Sandy's amazing and Melissa's amazing. So tell me about, like, the experience working with them, because they're different than I am.
Right.
But they're awesome.
Right. So Sandy, I went through her class, and her approach is different, but it's more engaging for everyone. Like, what do you think? And so it got you talking, and even if it wasn't your question, like, she still wanted your input for those answers. And Melissa had just completed her PMP, so she was a successful 7-day student as
She's the
well.
first one ever.
Yeah,
First one
so
ever. Yeah.
and so we were going through the questions with her on our group call, and we had such a big group, like, that first time.
Yeah.
I've been on a couple. I've been on one with Melissa and Maya, and then Melissa was my coach. So
that's good.
I
Well, I'm
did
glad you were able to
participate.
go. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to go and do so well. And Sandy's amazing. So is Melissa and Maya and and you. So, so that's cool. So, like, as you look back, when you're preparing, what do you think the most important part was to your training or your preparation, where things started to come together? Like, what is that? Like, what helped things come together for you to make the change in your mind?
The change were the 7 flows.
Okay.
Once I went through and saw the 7 flows, like, it just clicked.
Okay.
Like it didn't matter that I read the book and I highlighted. It was seeing how you broke down the 7 flows that made all the difference. And I could see, like, you did each of the initiating, planning, change, and information flow.
Yeah.
Like, I could see in my mind risk. I could see in my mind change. And that really, really helped me. Like, that visual made it all click for me. And so I went back and read, like, I wasn't afraid of the math, but I couldn't, like, sometimes remember the processes or the steps for the math. But your tool breaks it down, and I was able to see those connections. So I am a visual person, and I like reading, but the book was just so much, and I just couldn't understand it. It's not how you have your book broken down. It's tells you, and also the John stories. Like, I could see in my mind how the John stories related to what I was doing, even taking the exam. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I know this. So I think that's why I kind of zoomed through some questions so quickly. But those were the things that really, really solidified it for me.
That's awesome. So it wasn't any memorization that helped you answer these situational questions. So like if you were to explain to someone your approach for solving situational questions, how did you do it so well that you could zoom through certain ones of them? So how do you approach it, or what did you need to solve these situational questions?
So when I was on a coaching call with Sandy, what she had said was, read the last question, and you said that as well. Read the last question first, but she also said, and sometimes I even read what the answers were. And
Right.
so that's kind of the approach that I took. So in my mind, I already knew, like, out of those four, what two I had that I wanted to select. And then I went back and read the entire question, and I was able to quickly pick which one that I felt was right. But of course, I didn't do too well in monitoring and controlling.
But it's all right. I mean, who knows? I bet that when you went back there and you started changing, that was probably the one you felt like so insecure about that you probably went back and changed a bunch of places there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about monitoring, controlling confuses you? Like, talk me through
You know
kind of
what?
what about it is.
I don't know. I feel like unless it's asking me specifically about, like, control quality, or like, I feel like I have to see those triggers to
Yeah.
even know that I'm in monitoring and controlling.
Okay.
But the others, like, I could tell that it was about closing. I could tell it was about executing or planning. But with the monitoring and controlling, I couldn't figure out, like, where I was in the process. But I will say too, like, the whole parachute into where you're at. my parachute would always zoom past monitoring control.
So talk to me about why it's important to know where you are in a question. Like for someone that doesn't know anything about what the parachute thing is or anything, like why is it important in your mind to know where you are in a question, process group wise?
Because what the situation is asking you what you should do next, what you should have done. And so if you don't know where you're at, then you can't tell, well, what should have come before and what you should do after. And so that's why it's best to know where you're at. And with the memorization of the 49 processes, like before, like I memorized all those processes, but I didn't even understand what the purpose was. So you have to know, like, memorization doesn't help you if you have no idea what those processes are for. So once I went through the course, your course, I knew what they were for, like what the purpose of it was.
Nice, nice. And then as you went, that's beautiful. And like as you went through that, when you know, if your parachute lands in a certain place and you know where you are, you know why,
Yes.
you know what you should be doing, why you're there, and you can kind of like navigate to which answer is the most correct or which ones are way outside. Oh, we should have done that a long time ago, or we're gonna do that later. Those kind of things.
Yes, exactly.
That's
Exactly.
great. What do you, so you mentioned, I always like to ask this question, like you could visualize John and you probably watch John in the videos, but like when you read about John, what does he look like in your mind? 'Cause I'm always interested because I know what real John looks like. I just talked to him on the telephone today. And I always want to hear what people think John looks like. So what does John look like in your mind?
I don't know.
You don't know?
He just looked like the cartoon character.
Okay, all right. He looks like the cartoon. He kind of looks like the cartoon character, but not really. He's a little thicker than the cartoon character. But yeah. All right, cool. Well, that is no problem. Well, that's cool. As you're going back, do you think if you would have just done 7-day accelerator and thought about this, like, do you think you would have passed like the first time? If you would have gone through that, maybe you had to go through it 3 times and look at some other videos. But do you think you would have passed using that, or would you have needed to go through something giant or bigger? What do you think?
No, I looking back, I believe, well, looking back, I was ready to take it after the 7 days, but I just didn't trust myself. I didn't tell my friends or family that I was even taking it when I took it.
Yeah.
so that was all a part of me not trusting myself.
Mm.
And on the simulators, I would score, like 80s and 85s. But it wasn't until I got like a 90,
Yeah.
90 plus that I was like, okay, I'm ready. So
All
in my
right.
mind, it was like I had to reach this number
To get
to
there.
show myself that I was ready. But the first week I was doing pretty well on the
Mm.
simulators.
So you've
But
mentioned, yeah,
yeah,
you've mentioned trust a little bit, like about yourself, like, hey, trust myself, have confidence in myself, positivity and stuff like that. Like, can you go in a little bit deeper about, because if someone, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are struggling with, like, they don't know when they're ready. They just can't, they haven't, maybe they failed before like you did. They had no confidence and stuff. How did you, if you could talk to them about building up what you built in yourself, which took time, how would they do that? Or what would you have to say to them about that?
I would say I completely understand, feeling like a failure when you don't pass that test the first time,
Right.
or for those that didn't pass the first or second or third time. But once you are in, I would suggest, first of all, doing the 7-day accelerator.
Well, I've asked that, yeah, obviously, but yeah. But what else?
And once you are in that program, once you're going through those days, it will definitely start to solidify itself for you, and it will begin to click. And when you are able to say to yourself and what you're reading, and understand what you're reading, then you're ready. You're
Okay.
ready.
You're right. Yeah.
Um, that's the only thing I
That's
could
it. Were
probably,
you
yeah.
able to, like some of the students were able to say, hey, I could technically explain it to others, like on the coaching calls where you could jump in and explain it? Did you, I always find it helpful for myself. Like, I'm learning by like teaching all the time, and I'm trying to
Right.
get students into the same spot where they have the opportunity to technically teach each other. Did you think that you
Exactly.
learned some through that process of kind of like coaching and teaching and
Oh,
learning and stuff?
definitely, definitely. Because I learned how others process and answer the question, and it made me think differently about that question. Because sometimes the question was easy, but I walked myself into a difficult or wrong answer
Yeah.
where it's, dude, just, it's easy. Answer the question, answer it, this is it. And so watching others explain how they got to their answer really helped me to see, okay, it's really not that hard. Like, it's not a trick. It's not, they're trying to,
Fool you or
oh
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
trying to fool you. Just answer the question. And I would, like I said, I would talk myself into like this whole scenario of, okay, what would you do,
Yeah. Yeah,
instead of just answering the question.
you just got to answer the questions that's asked. Like, you can't create this new
Exactly.
John story in the background that, like, oh, if this happened and
Right.
that happened. Like, no, when you find yourself doing that, walk away from that answer. Just
Right.
walk away.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. All right. So you did this. How is this going to help you? Or I should say, is this going to help you in your normal job? Like,
So my story, I have been laid off from my job, and getting the certification was for my personal enrichment,
okay.
and also to find a job. I felt like I couldn't find a project management job until I had the PMP.
Okay.
And not to say that others who don't have it, you know what I mean? But it
Yeah.
was just in myself.
Yeah.
I wanted to have the PMP before I did job search, and I just started a job. What's today? Monday. I just started a job today. I got offered.
That's
I
great.
got offered a
Congratulations.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has really helped me. I am able to contribute to I can look at, I'm looking at their processes, and we're talking about the change control board. I'm like, I know, what it is we're talking about. So it just feels good to be able to contribute and actually know what it is, how the process should be done. So that's really exciting. So I'm very happy. I will say, I was trying to do the exam on my Chrome book, so I don't know if anyone said that yet, but it doesn't work on Chrome.
Oh,
Uh,
the PMP exam. Yeah.
no, it doesn't work on Chrome. But this whole experience has been, when you called me and you said, I will help you get your PMP, it's not that I doubted you, but again, I knew how long I had been going through this process. So I was just over it. I wanted it to be done. But I'm so happy to have accomplished this.
Yeah, you should be
And thank
proud.
you so much for the program. Oh my gosh, like I wish I had known about it earlier. Like you should have started with 7-Day Accelerator.
Yeah, no doubt. I wish you would have had it earlier. Then you would have been 3 years. You've been a coach for 2 years at this point.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm very, very. You should like. This is like. I mean, this is a really good time. Like for you, like new job, got the thing, got the confidence. Yeah, like your smile is infectious. Like for people that are listening to this, like the enthusiasm that you bring is like it's making me excited. And so I think
So happy.
there's only good things to come, and I'm proud that you got through it. So
Thank you so much.
super happy. So
Yes.
yeah.
Called all my friends and family.
They,
Hey, PMP.
they didn't even know what you were doing yesterday. Just imagine if you would
No.
have told them. They would have been expecting that call. So
At the end of my exam, I started clapping. It's
well,
like, you're still in the exam. Congratulations.
that's the one thing with PMI. I know that probably Pearson controls it, but I wish they would have like more celebration at the end. Like, let's make like balloons come up or something on the screen.
Right.
Like you passed in like, 4 font or something like that. Yeah.
I
It's a
was
big
happy.
deal. Yeah.
Happy.
Well, that's good. Well, I really, really appreciate it. Is there anything like last moment that, there's people, like I said, there's people out there like you have had the same experience. They were like, you were saying like you ashamed or whatever you said. I don't want to put words in your mouth about failing and you're just going to give up and stuff like that. There's probably people out there just like you. What would you say to them?
Pick yourself back up. Sign up for Scott's 7-Day Accelerator. And get that PMP in 7 days. Like within 7 days, you will be like me and have your PMP. Oh, I just made a rhyme for you. Like that's your new tagline.
Well, I love it. Let's end on that rhyme. I am really, really proud of you. Always. If you need anything from us, please let me know. And
All right.
we want to stay in touch. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.